Good day everyone. Today is what we call Kargil Vijay Diwas, a day that is commemorated in honor of the soldiers or the heroes that fought the Kargil War. In the Kargil district and the national capital, that is New Delhi, the Prime Minister of India pays his respect to all the soldiers at Amar Jawan Jyoti, which happens every 26th of July. Not only in these two places, but throughout India, Kargil Vijay Diwas is a day commemorated in honor of our heroes. Now, many of us are aware of the Kargil War. We may even know certain details here and there. But having to know a first-hand account of what happened on the battlefield would be that much more better. And none other than, or no better than having a Navy person with us. Captain Viriato Fernandes, welcome and thank you for being with us. Captain, if you could share with us your experience from what I have been given to understand. You and your squadron have been on the field at that point of time. So what was your role, or what was the role of your squadron, over there, and what has been your experience on the whole, if you could share with us and our viewers?
Yeah. At that time, I had just reported to a new squadron called INAS 550, Indian Naval Air Station 550, that is at Kochi. And somewhere around 5th or 6th of June evening, late evening, I recollect, I was about to leave the squadron after working hours, and a sailor of ours who was on duty, he came running to my office and saying, "Sir, squadron commander saab bula raha hai." Squadron commander is the boss of the squadron. So his office was across the hangar. So I walked across, I met him. It was around 6:37, if I recollect, late evening. And he said, "Ferdy, there's some news." Ferdy, in aviation generally they have these short terms. So Fernandes, so Ferdy, and I said, "Sir, what is it?" He said, "We have to take part in the campaign. We have to join the Kargil campaign. And the location and exact role to be played will be known to us." So he said, "Tomorrow early morning 6 o'clock, the Air Force is sending an aircraft to airlift us." Now, I had just landed in Cochin with my wife and a small baby, 6 months old. So I just thought, how are they going to cope with it? Early morning I have to go, nothing in preparation. But defense is all about, you have to be prepared at all times. At times you may not be prepared, but you have to wait for that call, answer that call. So I sent a message to our people that they have to come well in advance. Early morning the Air Force aircraft is coming. A lot of activities had to be done. We had to get our aircraft ready. We have to get the ammunition, the gun pods where the guns are installed, all the spares, the POL, that is the petroleum oil lubricants, all those things, then the documents, all those manuals. So all those things was a gigantic task. But somehow our men got those things ready. We reported early morning in the squadron at around 4 o'clock, because 6 o'clock the Air Force aircraft was supposed to come to pick us up. Somehow we got the news at around 5:30 that the Air Force is not sending the aircraft because of some technical problem, which subsequently came the next day. So we got 24 hours in which I could also send my wife and child away home, and we were mentally free, prepared to go on the campaign. Yeah, that's how we went, and we were positioned somewhere to operate from the western sector.
Okay.
Yeah, because the war doctrine, it's not that the battle is taking at one place, but you have to strategically operate. Okay. There's think tanks will decide where to. So we were given a particular sector where ours was basically to do reconnaissance before our fighter aircraft from the Air Force a navy could be deployed. So our job was to do the preliminary thing, keeping a hawk's eye, a watch on what is happening.
Understood.
So
Okay. Thank you, Captain, for that. And I'm pretty sure we all have seen the passion and the enthusiasm with which Captain gives us, or rather shares his experience. As you can see, it's not an easy life, no matter the perks we may have, as part of being the armed forces. And in order to live that kind of life, there requires to be certain amount of passion or commitment. And which brings me to my next question, Captain, as to, at the time you joined the Navy, you were a young man, from what I hear. And what was it that drove you into joining the Navy?
if I recollect, I think so. No person is born with patriotism within. It evolves, it is developed. It depends upon the surrounding in which you grow. So as a child, I recollect always this talk about my father talking to me, telling me some stories about world affairs, how things happened during the Second World War, what happened post Second World War, the Cold War between the Western Allies and the Warsaw Allies, the Russian, Soviet allies, and all those things, how it happened, what happened in Hungary when the youth came out on the streets, Yugoslavia, and this was a normal talk in the family. Plus, in my village where I was born, Asnora, North Goa, there were very prominent freedom fighters. One was, in whose name a memorial has been built, Bala Mapari. One was the late Professor James Fernandes, who was a professor in Xavier's, Mapsa. Then there was a gentleman who was my neighbor, and still today I very often think of him as Mr. Rafael de Souza. Having these people in our village and hearing about them, and I was very close to Mr. Rafael de Souza, and also a lot of respect for Professor James. In fact, not many are aware that General Sunit Francis Rodrigues, his parents are from Asnora. He may be from Kurtoria, whatever, but his house is still there in Asnora. So these are the things, and Asnora was a place where the police headquarters was there during the Portuguese time. So there was a lot of freedom activity had happened. So maybe
it was all that
put together
that made you join the Indian Navy.
Yes.
That's lovely. It's really nice when you have circumstances around you encourage you into getting something like joining the Navy. So what I would like to ask you now is, for how long have you been with the Indian Navy?
I spent exactly 26 years, 1 month and 3 days to be precise.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had joined on 12th August 1991. The same day in the morning, I finished my Viva in my engineering college. That was part of the project, the final year project. I came home. I remember the Mandovi bridge had collapsed, so we had to cross by the ferry boat. And I quickly changed, had lunch, bath, and I reported at INS Mandovi at Vere.
Okay.
So like normal youth out of college, I didn't get time to enjoy, or it was straight away on the same day in uniform.
That's good. I mean, see, life has not been easy, as you can see right from the very start. Sometimes, even though we end up putting a smile on our faces and telling people about how we are with a smile, doesn't really mean that we've gone through a very peaceful life. We've always had circumstances to overcome. And anyways, having said that, talking about parents and talking to their kids and the youth joining the armed forces, we come across a lot of parents being scared about letting their children join the armed forces, whether it's the army, the navy, or the air force. So what are your thoughts on that? Should they be scared? Is it worth joining the armed forces? What are your thoughts?
I think so. The anxiety of the parents towards their kids will always remain. It's a natural thing that happens. In my case, we were 3 brothers. I was the youngest. My 2 brothers had finished their engineering. They were abroad. They were earning well. So for me, it was natural to follow into their footsteps. You know, young age. But then my parents, especially my mother, was insisting on one of her sons being in the defense, being in uniform. So she actually requested me, pleaded with me, I want you to be in uniform, one son to be in the service of the nation.
Okay.
Yeah. And about parents, as you said, being a little worried or anxious, it's about what parents hear that, you know, defense, war, they see on television or reading in the newspapers, you have lost soldiers in a gun battle or some ambush. It's natural. But I want to say, a soldier never dies. Martyrs never die. They live on forever. And in that form, I would request parents, you know, give a second thought of your children, at least one child in a family, girl or a boy. Today the armed forces have opened their hearts out to girls and women entering, and they're doing extremely well. So that is where you can build a community in defense of the country.
Correct. That's a very nice perspective, something that I've come across for the first time, wherein a soldier never dies, for the fact that he becomes a martyr, and a martyr always lives on. Having said that, Captain, I am given to understand you availed of a premature retirement, if I'm not mistaken. So what would you say are the few things that you carry on from your life in the Navy into your everyday life after retirement?
You know, I was planning for a second career in outside the Navy. Mine was a permanent commission. So if you serve for 20 years, you are eligible for a pension. So I wanted to ensure there's some security for my family. And on that note, almost about 6-7 years before that, I started preparing. You know, because I knew when I step into the outside world, I would have to compete with young people like you, with lot of degrees, and you know. So that is what made me go in for an MBA.
Okay.
And I followed it up with another MBA, because I knew every other youth today has an MBA. So I thought I have to outsmart them. What is the use of experience? You know, so that's how I started building up my qualifications. You know, I also did my Six Sigma management.
Okay.
So I was building up that if I step into the world for a second career, because since the world is competitive, I too, you know, age was not exactly on my side. So that's how. But then when I was on the verge of going abroad, a very lucrative job, a very handsome figure which one can dream of, and that too more than the salary. It was, you know, you were going as a project manager for setting up a defense facility in a foreign land. That is more prestigious. It's an honor for you. You know, it's a lifetime achievement. You have set up an entire facility for a foreign country, you know, with all the experience that you have gained. And but then what happened in 2018, March 2018, there was the regional plan which was operationalized by the Goa government, and rest is history. I stayed back, gave up those dreams, and
we will come to that in a bit, Captain. But you know, something that I'd really like to point out over here is some of the points that Captain brought out about building himself is because of a foresight he had, which many of us lack today, whether it's in the political scenario or in our everyday lives. We fail to make a plan ahead of us. Now, it's always good to have competition, like Captain said. Maybe I could be his competition, but I take that as a compliment. But yes, what I'm trying to say is we never stop building ourselves up. The more we get to learn, we should always attempt, and there is no age limit to learning something new. And that's something I'd like our viewers to keep in mind. Having said all of that, and the building up, and the certificates that you have, they will be displayed as this interview goes on, Captain. What are the various medals or the accolades that you've received during your tenure in the Indian Navy? If you could tell us a little about that.
I remember as a young lieutenant, I was awarded a commendation by the Commander-in-Chief, Western Naval Command. That was way back in 1999. Then again, I got commendation by the Commander-in-Chief, Southern Naval Command in 2001. In 2005, I again got a commendation by Commander-in-Chief, Western Naval Command again. So those pertaining to certain things what you do, going beyond the call of duty, beyond something which is not laid down, you achieve something which helps your unit and the Navy as a whole to achieve certain goals. So those are given. Now I never took it as a personal achievement because I always attributed it to the squadron or the ship in which I was. I took it as it belonged to the entire unit, my team. I always believe in teamwork. It's never an individual. In defense, it's never an individual. It's always teamwork. I think so even in social life, it has to be a teamwork. It's not I, me and myself. It has to be we as a team.
Very true. And that's one of the best things about being a leader and teamwork, is that you don't look after yourself, but you look after the people that you have working with you. And that is something we need to make a part of our daily lives.
But if I may interrupt, the one what I cherish is the Vijay Star Medal, which was awarded because of participating in the campaign during the Kargil War. That is what will always remain, because it's one of an opportunity a person gets in his or her lifetime to directly serve the country in a war. Nowadays there are not many battles or conflicts or wars, and we shouldn't have. But if need be, yes, to safeguard the interest of your country, the borders of your country, you are called for it. You have joined willingly, and that is the time you have to stand there to shed your blood for the country.
It's definitely a privilege and an honor to being with, here with Captain Viriato, well-decorated naval officer, as we can see. Which brings me to my next question, Captain. If you see today, governance is deteriorating on a daily basis, whether it's at the state level or the national level. What are your thoughts on the government looking after the heroes or the personnel in the defense forces, like the army, the navy, or the air force? Are they really doing a good job, or is there something better that they can do? What are your thoughts on that?
To be very honest, the politicians, once in governance, they show that they respect the armed forces. It is only lip service. I'll be very frank and blunt. They don't do much for the armed forces. They've taken the armed forces for granted because they know the man in uniform is always disciplined. He will never do something that is constituted as indiscipline. So they know that this man will suffer quietly. So he is not given his due. All these things, what they go to Amar Jyoti, Amar Javan Jyoti, and they place the wreath. I feel sometimes they do it out of compulsion. It's more symbolic. Unlike in Western countries where a soldier is respected, I don't think so that type of respect is there. It's only lip service here. Because I know what a soldier goes through.
I agree with you, Captain. It's very sad to see how our politicians, they're just the decision makers or people who sit behind an air-conditioned room and decide or strategize things, when it is the men in uniform that are actually on the ground there risking their lives for us. And who deserves the real respect are these men and women on the ground out there, and those who lose their lives. It's not enough just to do something symbolic and have your picture posted and then come back for elections after 5 years. And whatever, even if you're doing something for the purpose of a picture or to symbolize something, do it from your heart. Do it from your heart. Do it because you feel like doing it. Don't do it because it's a compulsion. Something which, Captain has brought to our knowledge, and it can be seen. It can be seen. You see it on media, social media, the press, everything, everywhere. So,
in fact, if I may tell an example, in Goa, a couple of years back, there was something that happened in Goa, in Dabolim itself near the airport. There was some illegal activity happening, and the flag officer Goa area, who by the way also took part in the Kargil war, Admiral Philippos, he took the initiative of stopping the illegality, and a very senior minister, an MLA, attacked him personally, and he said the Navy wants to rule Goa. I mean, this is not done. This shows where your patriotism lies. He was stopping the illegality and you were encouraging the illegality. This is where lip service, I say.
Sure. I think it's time some of our naval officers or anyone from the armed forces start teaching our existing politicians how to discipline themselves. It's the need of the hour. And if that happens, if they learn to discipline themselves, I'm sure governance improves and the lives of people at the very microscopic level also helps. Going ahead, coming to my next question, and which will be very interesting to many of you as well, is after your mature retirement from the Indian Navy, Captain, you got into social activism. We always knew your heart to be for Goa, no matter which part of India you were, posted in. So you could have chosen to do anything else. You could have chosen to have a life abroad and various other things. But you chose to fight for Goa. Could you share with us why is that? What made you do that?
I think my heart and soul lies in Goa. Of course, I'm an Indian first, but Goa has always been very passionate for me. Goa is a place which is, you can't describe it in a few words. It's life for me, and I think that is why I could just give up my dreams, whatever I had planned for a second career, and stay back and join all young people like you and many others, the elderly, the young, the youth, and fight to save whatever remains of Goa, a land which was preserved and kept safe by our ancestors. I feel Goa is a gift from God himself. And that is what I think so. But yes, we have a long way to go, because the type of people we elect probably are responsible for what Goa has been brought down to today. Goa was known all over the world as a tourist destination. It was a dream destination for people till few years back. Today, they brought some laws related to the usage of land, and people from all over have bought. Everybody wanted to have a slice of Goa. I feel we all have lost. We have lost that idea of Goa which was there. Can we restore? I feel we should fight back. We should try. restore Goa for the future generations. If not for us, for the future generations. They shouldn't be aliens in their own land.
True. I really like that concept of restoring Goa to maybe the yesteryears as we knew it, because today what's happening is Goa is getting a name so renowned, so famous across the globe for all the wrong reasons.
Absolutely.
And it's with the blessings of none other than sadly the politicians, the lawmakers for our state. And therefore sometimes, having known that Captain Viriato from, being a part of social activism to now entering the political arena takes a lot of courage and commitment when, people consider politics being a very dirty game. But if not for people like Captain, what do youngsters like me do? Where do we get our inspiration from? The good kind of inspiration, not the current ways in which the youth are being inspired, the wrong ways or the wrong materialistic ideas that are being given to them. Politics is not about money, but it's about governance, and it starts with yourself. You discipline yourself, you have good governance, and the rest follows from there. And so Captain, if there was a message that you'd like to give on today being the Kargil Vijay Diwas, what is your message to our viewers out there?
I'll break it up into two. A, it's an earnest request to the parents to encourage their children to look at armed forces as a career option.
Okay.
You get a decent salary, there's a lot of respect, and I think so there's a secure life. It's a decent life, and they teach you about discipline, loyalty, honesty. These are some of the characteristics that are very much required today. They're missing in the society. And secondly is about the parents to lay stress on the education for their children. What has happened is, because of lack of education, our youth are being used and misused and abused by the politicians who themselves may not be educated. You go to their doorstep with folded hands for jobs. It's not required. We have landed up because they don't have a vision. They belong to the same society. We are the ones who have elected them. But today when you look around, is there any employment policy? Is there an education policy? Is there a health policy? We've known what has happened during the COVID times. We've lost a whole lot of people. There's no policy whatsoever in any sector because they don't have a vision. So I feel we have to empower our children, our youth, with good education, and also bring to their notice what are the various schemes which are there, what are the career options which are there. And one of the career options which I will always tell is, look at the armed forces. They serve for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. You get them into society, they become soldiers in the society with discipline, honesty, loyalty, all that. It may take time, but I have this dream that one day Goa and India as a nation will change. And also as a politician, like for example, the Bharatiya Janata Party speaks about Ram Rajya. I would love to have Ram Rajya. What is Ram Rajya? It is the same thing. Honesty, equality. That is what. How many MLAs today, present day emerge, will actually know the values that are enshrined in Ram Rajya? I wish one day we have Ram Rajya. That is what is going to change the society. But today, Lord Ram's name is being used only to fetch votes. That is the irony. Politicians across the political parties, you name all the political parties, do they have a vision? The only aim is how to retain the seat of power. It is not what good I can do to the society. What good can I do to the youth? Today the parents are anxious. Will their children get a job? Will they be able to stand on their feet? Where is Goa headed? As you said, various vices, drugs, murders, rapes, prostitution. Goa has been turned into a den of these vices. But there is that hope that Goans will rise. Political parties will rise above their personal ambitions and, look and give something back to the society.
Sure. Well, that's a lovely message by Captain. There's so much to say, so much to learn from, and Captain is more like a figure of inspiration for many of the youth out there. One of Captain's requests and one of the messages that we at Going Sahavas would also love to give the people of Goa is think about joining the armed forces, whether it's the Navy, the Army or the Air Force. It never lets you down. You learn to have that kind of commitment and sense of responsibility towards your nation. And once you develop that, you can also have that for your own state, for your own house, for your own family and for yourself. And that's the kind of responsibility we even want to look at in terms of politics, because the existing politicians they want to look after only themselves and look after the seats they're sitting on, look after their bank accounts, which is very sad. They don't mind letting go of anything that comes in their way. They don't really think about people around them or the people who voted them to power. It's a very sad situation. And another thing that we are missing is vision. If we at a young age, like we spoke earlier, have vision, as in we build ourselves, we think of ourselves for the next 10 to 15 years, we can also inculcate that kind of a habit in our social life, in governance, for example, if we get into the government. And I think the current political scenario is in a state of doldrums. It's in a very bad state, and it is the need of the hour where we need a new breed of politicians. We need young politicians, young minds. Maybe you may not be young, but young at heart and young in mind. That's really important, and that's more or less the qualities we see in Captain. And with his service for the nation, Going Sahavas and the people of Goa, thank you for serving
my pleasure. Thank you.
Country. And we also thank you for the efforts you're putting into saving Goa, and we really wish you all the best, and we would love to see you being an MLA in the near future, Captain. So
thank
all
you.
the best to
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
This is Nino Correa signing off. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless.